Hello, everyone. It's Kyle here with Unearth Records. Today, we're going to explore the AV control system that we have available here at Unearth Records. So, our AV control system controls audio and visual throughout our facility. And we are doing this by utilizing many products and integrating them together in order to make a full solution. Now, a lot of times, this stuff gets overlooked when it comes to a facility's amenities and how it functions and its ease of function, as well as its output of how quickly things can get done due to a system such as this. So, without further ado, we'll dive on in here. So, up on the screen here, I have the studio control room touchscreen. This is actually a physical touchscreen that is located on the desk, and it's doubling up as not just a AV control platform, but as well as our monitor controller for the control room. So instead of having a completely separate piece and buttons and things that can go wrong with that, this is more digital and it's more elegant, and it also is a lot of supercharged features that a traditional monitor controller doesn't have the functionality to do. So, without further ado, we'll dump on into the monitor control section of the control room. So, at the glance of this, we have a source selection, some volume, a speaker selection, a subwoofer selection, and some basic metering for the control room. So, for example, we have some BGM sources. I'm going to call them background music sources. And this allows us, like, say we're just goofing around and everybody's taking a break and nobody's recording, that maybe somebody just wants to listen to some music or cast some funny videos utilizing our casting device to the TV in here, and we can laugh and have a good time. So this allows basically us to control the source of that section of the system here in the control room. Now, basically, the DAW is always being fed directly to the system. So this just allows us to leave the session as where it's at and just grab something and play it real fast, and then turn it back off, and so that we can get back to recording. This also allows us to select a speaker set that we want to listen to, as well as a subwoofer, and pair a subwoofer to that speaker set. And we can do that by just selecting the speakers here, as well as if we see this check box up above, we can actually just listen to the subwoofer by itself or the tops by themselves, like the full range. And as I select and deselect these check boxes, the EQs, crossover, and time alignment changes according to what is selected and being played. So depending on if we get rid of the subwoofer, we no longer have any crossovers active on any of these speaker selections. Or if we had this subwoofer and we're switching between speaker sets, that crossover changes just slightly according to what the speaker set is, as well as what its sizing of the actual mid range in that box actually is. So we're adjusting that, as well as some of those are located a little differently in here, so we have them time aligned to the subwoofer as well, and that puts everything in phase when it comes out at us, as close as it possibly can be. Next, we have our volume control. We can volume up and down the control room speakers. We also have some isolation room speakers that if somebody's in the isolation room and they just want to listen to what the control room hears, that they can, and we can kick that back and forth to them and just mute it when we're not needing it and unmute it when they want to listen. We have the ability to basically anything that's going to the speaker system, we have the ability to down mix to mono, as well as kick it back to stereo. So if we need to just look at what it would sound like if it's a mono versus stereo mix going on. We also have like a dim solution, which allows us to take anything that's playing and just diminish it by 20 decibels. So maybe we're having a conversation and we still want to have what's playing going on in the background, but we don't need it that loud. We can just dim it down and be talking and doing things. And then when we are ready to bring it back to full level, we can go ahead and disengage that, and it will basically volume fade back up slowly to the normal volume. It's not going to be like something where it's going to just crush you and hit you in the face. It's going to be a little bit more elegantly done. Another cool feature we have is some metering. And again, this is not, I'm not going to say this is real time metering. It is slightly delayed because of getting it to the touchscreen, but it gets me a very, very good idea of where I'm running. Now, obviously, it's delayed probably about 10 milliseconds max, which is noticeable. But I mean, in reality, I don't have a problem with it being not exactly perfect. It's more for me just a quick glance and see like where am I at on my output meters within the DAW, as well as I could see it in the DAW, but this allows me just to see it in another location as well. And if I solo something and I'm not wanting to like go and look for that meter, I can just see whatever's being soloed on the listen bus and see what it meters out at. And if I'm seeing something that's a little bit funky, I can immediately see it there. Another cool feature that the control system in the studio actually has is the ability to sequence up and down the rack systems in the control room. So you'll see that we have four rack systems in here that we have I/O gear, analog I/O gear, which I don't have a lot of analog I/O gear. I'll tell you, I'm more of a in the box digital person, utilizing plugins. That might change in the future as I add more to my arsenal. But at this moment in time, I've been happy with the results I'm getting with not having analog equipment. But I can in the future add analog equipment and fire them up and down in a click of a button in reality, where I can just hit sequence up on each rack and it literally sequences each outlet up with a couple of seconds delay between after them. Or if I just need to power cycle something real fast, I'm not going and finding what switch it's on. I can literally just click it off and you'll see it goes gray, and it basically tells me that that outlet's off right now. That is like a real time status of the actual outlet saying, hey, it is off. And if I click it back on, I just clicked it back on. So I can power cycle things really quickly and efficiently. At the end of the day, when I'm done with my session or just closing up the studio, I can just hit sequence down. It's going to literally just sequence everything down. And even the stuff that's just part of the desk in general that doesn't need to be on. Um, Computer monitors, headphone pre's, things like that that just are always on during the day for sessions. But I can sequence everything down, and it's a very quick and efficient way to shut down the studio as well as fire it up. So another cool feature that I think a lot of people, um, it gets overlooked as far as a facility, a recording studio facility, but it's really one of those things that really kind of just ties the whole facility together. And I don't think people realize how nice it is until they actually experience it, and then they go to another studio that doesn't have it and they're like, dang, this kind of sucks because I'm so used to that. So in our facility, we have since this is Michelle, our house as well, we have a house, and then of course the garage has been converted into the studio itself. So I can actually take and control any of the audio zones and TVs and things like that in the house from this touchscreen. But that might not sound very exciting right now, but where it does get exciting as far as a recording session is I can literally take the live audio that's coming through the control room speakers and kick that to anywhere in the house. So I can literally kick that to the bathrooms, the theater downstairs, the lower bath, all the speakers on the outside, the speakers in the gazebo, pretty much everything or everywhere you could walk across our facility and you'll be able to actually hear the live tracking session happening. As well as I basically mixed into that, like if I'm talking to the artist that's in the live room or the isolation room and they're talking back via paging, that paging mix also gets sent to the house. So like if you are in the bathroom and you're kind of feeling, typically you would feel disconnected because you would be in a completely different space. It kind of allows you to still be a part of what's going on here in the studio, even when you're not physically sitting here in the control room behind me on the couch or at the mixing console with me. So it kind of allows everything to just really, tie together, as far as the facility itself. And I've had a lot of people, like, they just, they find that cool, that, that when they're recording, that they can just go walk around and enjoy themselves and go sit out on the gazebo or something when they're needing to take a break and somebody else is tracking their parts, that they still feel like they're part of the session or still can kind of understand what's going on and see where we're at. As well as if they, have notes, they can come in here and, kick us their notes, and even though they weren't in here. So really cool feature that we've got here. Also, of course, I have the weather here. We live in northern Minnesota, Bemidji, and the weather changes drastically in the fall and the spring. Even in the winter, when we get winter storms and things like that, it happens very drastically, and sometimes it's nice to be able to see what the weather report is very quickly from the desk here, and tell, let the clients know that, hey, we probably should cut it short, we got a storm coming or whatever. That at least helps us to kind of have, that, as well as see the temperature. Kind of a fun and unique thing to have. So hope you guys found this informative. I have completely built this control system myself from the ground up. Of course, there's manufacturers that build this stuff, and I'm using their products and programming their software in order to make this happen. But as far as the GUI and how it functions and how it navigates and how it looks and graphically, I built all those graphics and everything to make it do what it does, and code it to do what it does. So, and of course, there's quite a few different moving pieces involved in this. It's not just a single piece that's really doing all of this. There's multiple pieces that are involved in this, and multiple hardware and wires and cables and things like that. And, um, things that have to be, even put in for infrastructure for a system like this to even work. So this isn't something where you can just literally go down to Guitar Center or, or Sweetwater and go buy. This is something that, you're going to buy the parts, and you're going to pay for somebody to actually program it and make it work. And that is what stuff that I do myself outside of the recording studio. I am an AV systems engineer, so I design audiovisual systems across the United States. So I hope you guys found this informative, and we hope to see you guys soon out here at the studio. Take it easy.